Okay, so last week, last class, last time, whatever, we got through, or I got through, basically making the body, or roughly, added at least a dorsal fin, played with some ideas for how to make at least a profile for the head of the hammerhead shark. And I do have this set of pectoral fins, but I don't know if I like those quite as much for fixing onto the body. But I'm gonna look at that. So today what I want to do is work on doing the other fins. So basically what that means, and let me turn the camera down, is just that, figuring out the other ones. So I did my main ones here, at least the dorsal fin. I'm not going to attach the pectoral fins just yet because they're going to be in the way as I try to work on other things. So do keep that kind of thing in mind also. I finished with that part, but I can set it aside because if I attach it now, it's just going to make everything more complex. I have some better ideas now for how I want to handle the head, but I don't have the copper wire with me at the moment because I want to use that for the eyes and possibly for other elements. I still need to do the gills, and same thing there. Even though I tried to make the gills part of the headpiece, it didn't work as well. But that's the thing for the better, because when I actually put the gills on the side, look how easily they just get lost in this coil. So I think the gills realistically should be made of copper or something else. If your option is you also have like some silver wire or something like that, yeah. I think when you have already all of these parallel lines and you're trying to add more parallel lines as a feature, that's just they're just going to get lost in there. So that's when you want to make sure to use something else. So let's see, what do we want to do here? I think I'm going to start, like I said, on the other fins. Now, I know that the top rear fin here is a single fin. These are both paired. So what I'm going to do is a smaller version of what I did for the main pectoral fins. But as practice, just to get myself back into wire bending, I'm going to make the bottom of the tail fin. So that's a pretty easy, straightforward part. Just like I did for the other ones, get a chunk of wire and start bending. So I'm at least going to start with, this time, I'm going to pre-bend the hook that's going to attach there. And all that is just making a little teeny hook. I know that's where I want it to go, so that's going to be a good starting point for me. Then I can just start working my way around. Now the problem is now with that hook there, I can't really grab the end of the wire to start working on a bend. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of my other pliers to hold on to to that little bend there. That gives me the leverage for me to push my thumb up against that corner there. And all I'm doing is just getting that slight bend. I just couldn't hold on to it as well before. So same, I'm going to grab at the bottom of where my fin is going to go and bend the wire around. Way too big of a bend, so I need to smoosh that down a bit. Smoosh. I don't think I lost too much of my curve. Yeah, I need to fix that a little bit. Unfortunately, again, you all have thinner wire. Here at the school, I don't have access to a thinner one because it's all spoken for. But I'm just going to now go in the opposite direction. And yes, I did stab myself pretty good the other day. So yeah, again, keep an eye on the sharp pointy corners. Now, where I'm going to attach it, now this is the tricky part a little bit, because you can see here that shark fin connects back pretty far up the tail. And what I'm going to need to do, I think, is to add this other hook. I'm also going to need it to bend inward, meaning that I want to hook up here, But to make that connection, I need the hook to actually bend inward. So all that means is giving myself a little extra space, bend the hook, and then or roll the hook itself and then bend that hook part inward. So grab a little bit further down. Actually, first, I'm going to clip this so it's a little bit shorter to deal with. With the hook somewhere up here. Yeah, that seems about right. Again, that's too short for me to push in with my thumb. That's not how I hurt my finger, but I will definitely slice the crap out of my thumb if I do that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to roll it onto the table. Very easy stand-in for that. I need to crimp that down a little bit more so my hook is a little bit tighter. I'm going to snip the end of the hook so it's a little more snug. Wow, that went flying. Now, like I was saying, whoops, I bent it the wrong way. So what I need to do is I need this hook to be in line with this one. Right now it's perpendicular. All that is I just need to grab it. I'm using the pliers and grabbing across both sides of the hook here. Get this out of the way. Just grabbing across both sides of the hook here and just rotating the whole thing. Yeah, it's going to mess up my bend a bit, but I can fix that. Now they're both going the same direction. Just got to go through here, tweak that fin a bit, go back and check it. Yeah, that's slightly better. But like I said, now what I want to do is I want to bend this hook itself inward at 90 degrees, or roughly. So now they're going to interact with my frame just a little bit better. Now, just so y'all know, I don't know this is the right way to do this. I'm just kind of feeling my way through this. That seemed like the most appropriate way to do it. It might not be. It might not work at all. It might end up, when I go to crimp this, it might look terrible. That's always a possibility. I do want to try to close that fin up a little bit so it's a little bit sharper. And that's slightly better. There we go. All right. Now I can go and hook this on. Where does that need to hook on? Yeah, about there. So I'll hook one side. Can't really see what I'm doing here. Close that up. Smush the hell out of that so it holds on. And just need to make sure that this side is about where it needs to be. That seems okay. I don't think that's really exactly how I was hoping that would come out, but that seems okay. Do the old smush crimp. Oops. No, okay. I thought I cut it. All right, that's not bad. Definitely not great. Again, you'll be able to get much tighter bends with the 18 gauge wire. I'm using 16 gauge. I guess I can try to pull that backwards just a bit. No, I'm making it far worse now. I'll live with it for now, and then I'll decide if I want to just chop that off there and redo that. Always an option. Okay, let's work on the other fins. So to do these, oops, I'm going to do the same thing that I did for the head and for these fins. Although now this makes me wish I'd done a manta ray. That'd have been cool. I need to bend first a piece of wire in half so I can have a starting point to then unfold from later. All right. Put a little crook in it just so, yeah, have that kind of starting bit. And this teeny little thing, I don't know how well this is going to go with thicker wire. I might have to hunt down some thinner wire. I'll try it out, and if not, I will have to find something else. Crimp and bend. trying to make this part, this fin has a double back to it here. And it's a little tricky. Yeah, I don't know about that one. Yeah, I'm gonna have to track that down. So I'm gonna pause there and go find some other wire. Okay, so I went and got some 18 gauge wire. It's not very noticeable at first, the differences between 16 and 18 gauge. It's only like 0.02 different size, or 0.02 of an inch. In other words, about 2/100ths of an inch thicker, or thinner rather, which doesn't seem like a lot, but when you start bending it, it makes a huge difference. So I did the same thing, folded one in half, crimped it down, and try this again here. Just gonna work my way around, bend this a bit more. Yeah, it's a little bit easier to bend with. These tight bends are still a bit awkward. That's not bad. That's not great. I could definitely use thinner wire and get a better bend out of this, but that's working pretty decently. So from there, I'm going to bend inward. I'm going to trim this off, or maybe I'll bend my hooks first. Yeah, bend my hooks first. Now I'll trim those two tails. Can't get both of them at once. All right, so that's a half and half there. Now when I unfold this, I'll have my two fins here. So it's like a tiny sharp butterfly. I might have to adjust how that came out of there a bit. There we go. Ow. So now I have this little pair of fins, which doesn't look like much right now, but I'll be able to hook these onto my shark here, and I'll have those back tail pair of back fins. So just got to figure out the proper place to hook them. And if that means I have to kind of tweak my coil here, because I actually bent this to hook onto the coil, not that center, probably have to tweak the coil just a little bit. And that's definitely what I'm aiming for either way. Yeah, that's a better fit. now I can hook these in and crimp it down. My problem is I made this with this little divot, so actually I have to do this from the inside because I had to make it more difficult for myself. There we go. See, now that little notch, like I put in all of these, sits right on that center line. And if I pull the coil down, I crimp these little hooks down, and that will lock the whole thing together. All right. Now, I haven't crimped those hooks down completely yet because I just wanted to fine tune it, but there you go. That's pretty much what I was going for. So now, just added those little fins, and I'll add more. I'll work on these larger pair. But I need to be able to tweak this a bit more. Yeah, these need to fold inward a bit more. There we go. Yeah, that's what I wanted. A little bit too closer to the body. Cool. All right. Start working on the other pair. Length of wire. Bend it in half. Smoosh that crimp down. Open that up a lot more. Main thing with a lot of this is just going back and forth and just checking that your parts actually match. That's the part, that's what I mean by trying to get this as accurate as you can. Obviously, we're not looking for photorealistic. That's, well, that's quite a lot of an ask. What I'm asking for is to try to get your proportions down, just to try to double check things, make sure this is about the right size. Yeah, it's about the right size, especially with what I can do with wire. Yeah, roughly there. And I'll do the same with this one of making more hooks on the end of this. And when I go to unfold these, this pair unfolds just a bit wider, judging by my illustration drawing here. These come out a bit wider. And then I just check the spacing again. About there. And figure out exactly where to hook that on. About right there. So one thing to note, and what we were talking about with using finer wire here, I don't know how well you'll be able to see this, but with my fins here, the initial little hump there in the center, it keeps hopping up into my frame. And what I think I'll have to do is add a little twist of wire right at the base here to keep that snugged against the frame. I don't have that wire right now, but that is something to be done. I can kind of try to tweak some of the other pieces, but it's not really wanting to stay snug down. So yeah, I'll try that. All right. All right. Well, I went ahead and attached these fins, the main pectoral fins, as I was playing with the design, because I'm still just trying to figure out how I want to do the head. So in the meantime, I went ahead and attached that. And the good thing is what that allows me to do is I can start looking at it now from more profile views, meaning now I can look at it from straight on and look at, see, oh, well, now I see I need to realign like that center profile a bit better. That'll allow me to make these fins a bit more correctly bent, but I still need to do a few more connection things, like how I have these little notches in the front of my each of my fin pairs. They still need to be like actually lashed together, and that could be done with some really fine wire or something to that effect. Now, I still have that main connector there. That's just going to be a placeholder for now, but as I still try to figure out what to do about the front, I can work on the back half a little more specifically. And the great thing about being able to work with wire like this is I don't have to have this be like in a perfectly symmetrical form right now. I can have that for when I'm building it, but what I can start to do now is start to play with the actual design, as the actual motion. Now, some of you, that's not as much of an option. Your design is much more symmetrically based in that you have the parts symmetrical, but they get assembled differently. Like, you know, something with 4 legs are going to be in different positions, that sort. But this at least allows me to, because my design is more tubular, I can play with it a bit more. In that, in my original drawings, I was basing my design from, things like the tail is curled and such. So with that, what I can do is actually start to do exactly that. So if I wanted to duplicate that completely, I can start bending the actual tail and get it to look more like it is in fact curved. Well, not like it's curved, it is curved. So I can start to play with that. So that means I could start to play with like the sweep of the body. Not too sharp, but I'd really like to emphasize that S curve that sharks get as they're swimming and you see it from above. Now this is going to mess with my coil a little bit, and that's fine. I can continue to tweak it and work with that. But at least for now, I can start playing with that. And now looking straight down, I get much more of that curl or that curve going in the body. It still needs some work, but I can just start to see that happening, and it just makes it a little bit more lifelike. Or, again, as what we're trying to aim for, a bit more accurate. Still got to figure out the head. But one thing you do want to make sure to do, keep looking at it from different angles, because sometimes, especially with this wire, the way it works, one side looks perfectly fine, another side, and it starts to look all wonky. So make sure to look at your piece from multiple angles, from multiple sides as you're working. Just a good way of spot checking your work. So just to finalize, I feel like I'm at a good pausing point with my piece. I'm still trying to figure out how I want to approach the head and gills, but I think that's definitely going to take some different styles of wire. So while I consider that, I think this is a good pausing point for my piece at the moment. So I'm going to stop the recording here, and we will pick up when I have a better idea.